Maybe a little late, but not a dollar short. As we recap the OU Kansas game a little later, right before we come up on this bye week with my boy Coop. So stick around. We'll talk about that here in about 10 seconds. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay here with Unfair Sports, talking OU football, college football, and of course, sports in general. Thank you for checking us out here on the YouTube channel. While you're here, hit the like button as well as subscribe. That helps us small content creators get our name out there, and hopefully we'll find more people like you that enjoy what we're putting together, as well as share. Why? Because sharing is caring. And so in this video, me and my man Coop is going to talk about the OU Kansas game now that I'm back in town and kind of give you a quick recap and talk about going into the bye week. So jump in the comments. How did you feel about that Kansas victory? How did you feel about Oklahoma winning that game? I would love to hear your responses and your thoughts. All right, let's dive right in, shall we? The Oklahoma Sooners have bounced back in a thriller of a game that was not as close as the score looked, beating number 19 Kansas 52-42 at Norman Gaylord Memorial Stadium. Dylan Gabriel throws for 403 yards and 2 touchdowns. Eric Gray has over 176 yards rushing on the ground. It was a dominant game by the Sooners almost from the beginning. Luckily, Kansas was without their main guy, Jalen Daniels, so Oklahoma was able to bounce back. So to start off, first reactions, what was your first thoughts on this Oklahoma victory over Kansas?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we were texting back and forth during the game, and a new relationship in that route. You know, it's almost every play there's a new reaction, and so
yep.
I just took a look at, I mean, right from the get go, Levy looked like he came out, and I think in the first 3 plays we had the same amount of passing yards that we had against Texas. So I mean, let's go right there. You saw Theo Weiss getting dumped in early, just going after Mims, Farouk getting in there. So it was a great deal. And I told you, man, 100 plays is what we ran on offense. 100 plays. That's a lot. I mean, that's something crazy, right? So you run 100 plays, and you sent something to me during the game, and it was like we only had one drive that was over 3 minutes. So we were moving the ball fast and effective. You saw a little bit more of a controlled pace. I got to start up front. The offensive line looked like this was the game that they were like, you know what, let's put this on our shoulder. Let's keep DG up. And they did it, man. They did well. And so, but again, like I said, you saw Braden Willis. I mean, if you say who's the MVP, it's a hard argument because we saw this team without DG, and then we saw this team, with DG. But Braden Willis has been that staunch, consistent, and he's just been the man this year. So yeah. I just got to give a shout out to Braden Willis, because whether it was like crashing fools down on the line blocking, or whether it was catching slants, like we haven't seen a dude do this in quite a long time. We haven't seen a tight end really play like this. I mean, we've had Stogner, we've had Kauk, we've had Andrews, but I mean, guys running slants, a tight end running slant, like Jay, like, when have we seen this last? So I don't know.
That's a good question. I mean, and you make a great point. You were talking about this as we talked about the preview on one of our other videos. You made mention that the way to really beat Kansas, which was a really good idea, is to attack them across in the slants. And literally, Levy put that game plan out there. He made those corners tackle them, and it eliminated the ability for them to go for tips and go for like interceptions. He made them actually have to tackle those guys. And it worked. That was the game plan, and it worked. And so to go back to what you said at the beginning, it's Levy was in his bag because he finally had a quarterback that could do it. You know, when we talk about this before, we joke about, and I gave Levy the blame for the loss to Texas, the way that went down, because like you said, we threw more yards in the first probably drive of this game than we did the entire game against Texas, because he just wouldn't let nobody try. He didn't just throw them out there to the wolves and see if they're a gamer. He doesn't believe in that. Totally understand, but when you're playing a team like Texas, you got to go out there and at least try. It felt like there wasn't a real attempt to even throw it. So with that, we've got Gabriel back. He goes out there, he cooks, throws for 400 and something yards. Looks like the guy that they recruited there. Looks like the guy that Levy got in the transfer portal And then outside of that, yeah, the offensive line was lovely. I mean, Eric Gray putting up 176 yards on the ground. Like, I've been an apologist for Eric Gray this entire year. I mean, I have a video where I apologized and told him, dog, my bad. You right. You actually can be something. And all he does is keep proving me right and wrong all at the same time. Cannot be mad at him for that. So it looked good that we had a run game. That worked. It looked like we were passing it. We looked fluid. I mean, we were up like 3 touchdowns most of the game. Like we were playing like we actually wanted to blow a team out. You know, you go in the first quarter, it's tied, and then we just take over. After the first quarter, boom, 21, 28, 35, and it's just like, oh, we're going to blow you out. We're going to try to dub you. We're going to go double your score to us. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, there's more to it with that. But I think the defense played a lot better than I expected in this game.
Yeah, and so what I saw was we saw defenders for the first time, and I mean, we could even say this against Kent State or even Nebraska, that those guys were thinking, and they were making some plays, but they were thinking. This was the first game where we saw guys who actually were just instinctually reacting and trusting the system that Brent's put in front of them. Man, I got to say that, like, the play of the game is, and I think this was in the third quarter, and I have to go back and take a look, but Key Lawrence comes up, running back, takes the ball, hits a wide open gap between the left tackle and the left guard. And Key Lawrence has that gap, and he cuts the dude down flat. It's over. And we haven't seen a stick like that. That's not been Oklahoma football on the defensive side in quite a long time. I don't remember, ever seeing something like that. Maybe Tony Jefferson, maybe Brendan Everidge. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. Like, we haven't seen a safety come up in the gap on a line of scrimmage and cut a full down just immediately. So I got to give it a props. Key Lawrence did great. Deshaun White, he's getting better every game. And a lot of people want to toss Deshaun White under the bus and want to say, like, he's just not good enough. Let's bring in the freshman Kanak. But Jaron Kanak he's not Deshaun White yet. He's going to be there, and he's going to eclipse, and he's going to run well past. But Deshaun White, we said it, in the Nebraska game before he got the targeting, he was playing the best game of his career, and then he gets kicked out. The next 2 games, I mean, they are what they are, but we saw him really, really, really just making a difference. So from the defense, I say we're getting better. You take away that 75-yard junk touchdown at the end of the game, we hold them to 300 yards and change. And, we also gave them the ball twice at the midfield and once like within the red zone. So, again, I'm not going to apologize because the defense still is a work in progress, but we're starting to see guys just really, really trust the system. And now what I want to see next is when we do have that 3 touchdown lead, let's go ahead and let's take the kill shot. Let's crush them. Let's stop them, and let's go out on offense, and let's stretch that thing out to 28-35 and just make them go, you know what, we're not good. And again, this is the same quarterback that played us last year, and he did a lot of whatever he wanted last year.
Oh, yeah,
Jalen Daniels is good, but you heard the broadcasters, and you've heard people. Bean's got a better downfield arm, and that was the part that we were struggling with, and we really showed out, and we did a good job. So again, I look at the conference standings, and we get one more win, and we're starting to fight for that mid tier, and we get 2 more wins, and we're right behind that first grouping. And it's starting to look good.
Yeah, it's starting to get better. And Oklahoma does not look like they're completely out of the hunt 100%. It looks like there's a chance that they could be back in it. It looks like the Big 12, and we're going to talk about some Big 12 games a little bit later, and something that I went through just kind of off the cuff, but it looks like the Big 12 is going to cannibalize each other because the conference is that good this year. It feels like it's one of the best conferences. If it's right behind the SEC this year as far as a lot of good teams. And Kansas, I mean, rightfully so, ranked number 19. They're a really good team. With Jalen Daniels, they have probably a chance of winning this game. I mean, they were about to come into this game 6-0. If they didn't lose their quarterback last week, they probably would be undefeated coming into this game. So I don't want to downplay Kansas and pretend like this isn't Kansas of last year. This isn't Kansas of years past. This Kansas team will probably finish the season with the winning record. and potentially really compete for a Big 12 championship. But besides that part, defensive wise, why haven't we been playing CJ Colden? I'm just kind of curious. Seems like he's been all over the place. He's gotten the last 2 interceptions for us in the last 20-something quarter. He's literally getting all the picks. He's doing it. That spectacular interception he got, something that I want to see more of. I want to see guys finding ways to get picked, and he did it. That pick was beautiful. Why aren't we seeing more of that man? I want more Colden. And it seems like we probably are going to see more of him now that Graham has moved to wide receiver. That was a good play on them over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, so CJ Colden, this is not a tall man. What is he? He's listed at 5'7", 5'6", something like that. I mean, but again, when it comes to instincts, I'd rather have a 5'5" dude in the right place to make a play on the ball than somebody, who's completely out of place. And so we're starting to see a lot of different players come in and, we saw Robert Spears-Jennings quite a bit in this game. We saw R. Mason Thomas. He's back and healthy. I mean, legit, he's our best pass rusher. So we're going to start seeing some of these younger kids in here, and they're going to have an opportunity to make it because, again, we've got 3 to 5 years of tape on some of these defenders. I feel like Justin Broyles was recruited by Howard Schnellenberger. I mean, I feel like the dude has been on campus for a long time, and I love his leadership, and I don't want to disparage the kid at all because he is a great leader, and he's probably going to be on the Soul team. So, I just want to say this is it's time to get some of these new guys on. But again, I don't want Brent to approach all these defensive backs and the depth that we have there, or even the freshmen coming in this next year, and say hey, listen, if you give me, 50% practice, I'm still going to give you some playing time. I want to see these guys take practice seriously because that's the culture that Brent Venables is trying to instill. And if Justin Broyles is working his butt off and he's taking it and he's making the best practice tapes and nobody else wants to take it as serious as he is, then, that's kind of on the players. But again, glad to see CJ get in there, make that acrobatic interception and hop up because you know what happened? I bet you a lot of people hit the old phone and hit the Google and checked out who that dude was because they never heard of CJ Colden.
Right. I remember when he transferred in, and now I did a video on him at the beginning of the year talking about him coming in and what, was special about him transferring from Wyoming and everything. And it looks like the instincts that we saw from him coming in and what we kind of expected starting to show. I mean, it seems like a lot of the players were, I wouldn't say misevaluated in the spring, but it just seems like they're still trying to figure out where everyone's best place is.
Yeah.
And I think they're starting to get that gel. And we talked about this. One of the key things about over a spot that had a 40% turnover, losing a lot of players, you've got to figure out where everybody's supposed to go. That's what Bob Stoops did his first year. Kirby Smart did it at Georgia. I'll always remind you guys of that. Heupel did that at Tennessee. You got to figure out where guys go, and then you put them in their positions and let them go out there and dominate. So it's a good chance Oklahoma's defense will be a lot better next year, especially with the recruits that's coming in. And we'll talk about recruits another time. So good win by Oklahoma in that game. Yeah. Definitely something to keep your eye out for over the next week. Since this is a bye week, we actually get to rest and figure out exactly how to prepare for a tough opponent, which is going to be Iowa State. But thank you for checking us out here on Unfair Sports on the YouTube channel. Please hit the like and subscribe button before you go. And like I said, share because sharing is caring. And with that, chop it up in a day or two. Peace.